I shared this the other day on JB Pritzker's page. I couldn't help myself, and I encourage you guys out there in Twitter land, X land, YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, go to any of these elected officials pages, whether it's Joe Biden, JB Pritzker, I mean, on the Republican side, whether it's Mike Johnson, go to their pages. Look at what they're bringing forth in content to you and me. What are they saying? Which gets to my point. The reason that I like to, for the lack of a better phrase or term, troll. I troll JB, because I'm interested in what the governor of Illinois is saying to the people of Illinois, or at least to his, faithful followers. And he was going on this whole diatribe of the 5 cities that have been given some acknowledgement as being the best places to live in America. 5 cities in the state of Illinois, none of them close to Chicago. Well, I guess Naperville is close enough. It escapes the ring of fire, as we will talk about later in the show. We've got Brandon Johnson talking about what transpired over the weekend in Chicago. 100 lives were involved in shootings, 11 deaths. This is from the party that talks about, respecting life. Well, they don't talk about respecting life in the womb. They talk about, human rights, right? And women's reproductive rights. So they talk about life as long as it's, beneficial to their political narrative. But what I commented on JB's page was this, and it's the title of the show today. The same people telling you and I that Biden is mentally fit are telling us that the state of Illinois is a prosperous place. I mean, can you even make this stuff up? The same people who we know now were part of all the hoaxes, whether it's the Charlottesville hoax, the bleach hoax, the one that keeps coming around. JB himself even repeated the hoax from Charlottesville. He talks about the bloodbath. JB is a puppet to whomever is pulling the strings of Biden, because he's on stage, right? He's auditioning. He believes there's a chance that he might be something more than the governor of Illinois. And offline, just before coming online and on live here at the DPB show, and we always appreciate you joining us Tuesdays, Thursdays, 4 to 5. We are live. In fact, we were here on the 4th of July. Go back, look at the show, YouTube, Twitter, X, Facebook, Rumble. Like, subscribe. Thanks for being part of what we're doing here, because once again, part of the show, we want to highlight the person who really has helped the DPB show grow, and that's Kat Peterson. I don't know if you've heard, but it's out there in social media land. Kat Peterson is back live on the radio. She's back at Cities 92.9 from 6 to 8 o'clock in the morning, 6 to 8 a.m. in the morning. She is doing her live show. She has entitled her show Conservative Kat Peterson. So definitely set your alarm, get up early enough, catch Kat early on, or listen to her as you're getting ready to go to work. But she is back, which ultimately helps all of us right here in Central Illinois with conservative content and getting it out there on the airwaves. But one of the things that I was going to lead the show off in before I bring Ryan here, because of course Ryan's knocking it out of the park. He's doing things many of you might have seen, that Ryan's got a new setup, new gigs, new digs in his studio. But this one is the one that I want to add to the stage real quick, because there he is. There's Ryan.
Hey.
Because there's no better way, Ryan, to start off this Tuesday show.
Get motivated.
July 9th, 2024, in the year of our Lord, as Steve Bannon says, and we're prayerfully raising him up, because obviously whatever he's contending with behind prison walls, because that's what you do to your political opponents in the day of age of 2024, is you make sure that you put them in prison, not people like Merrick Garland, who can do whatever he wants, and he can,
Yep.
you could see, Ryan, that there was a bill put forth to pay Merrick only $1 until he starts, rolling out the tapes so people can
We'll
see
see. We'll see if it works.
exactly the interview that was conducted with Joe, so they could come and tell us that he's a feeble man who would not be able to stand trial for his crimes. We know that he's committed crimes, but yet we're not going to put him on the stand. But speaking of that, I guess there's no better way to get to it than just to get to it. Here we go.
I know, like millions of Americans know, when you get knocked down, you get back up.
I'm going to play it again.
I know, like millions of Americans know, when you get knocked down, you get back up.
It should be a motivational Monday video pinned. You should pin it to your Facebook page.
I am going to make that, because and like I said, it's not necessarily about making fun of this man who has spent most of his life. Okay, I
You see, you did. You made fun of him, and they came after you.
They did. Well, it was
they won't let you.
I moved my phone, and that's what happens when you move your phone. Then you get your old
bumping buttons.
Yeah, let me make sure that there we go.
Yeah, so you were saying about it's not about we're making fun of them, but it's kind of he's kind of doing it to himself. He's allowed it, like the campaign of John Fetterman. The dude was recovering from a stroke. Now he come a long way and he sounds really good coming out of the stroke, but you shouldn't have put yourself in harm's way. That's a very stressful job to run a campaign in the shape that he was in, and no different than Biden. They're beyond term limits. Your family member, if they were any kind of decent human being, should tell you, hey, you know what? You lost your fastball about 20 years ago in Congress. You should probably not run for office. And this isn't even about, oh, well, I hate his policies. This is an 81-year-old man who clearly does not have what it takes to be running the most powerful country on the planet. And you have his spouse, who seems like she's about 30 years younger mentally, running all the controls, telling him to stay in. Because without her, I think he probably would have stepped down by now. But you have an entire family around him and network, and Obama is the button pusher, I believe, in all of these decisions.
Well, I mean,
if Obama said, hey, let the money dry up, I think he would probably step down.
Well, we're discussing. Yeah, we were discussing that before we went live, that, hats off. I'm not trying to undermine or critique Dan Bongino. He doesn't need my critiquing, nor does he need any advice from me to run a successful podcast. Yeah. But I do hear Dan talk about that Joe Biden, in his condition, compromised mentally, obviously, and now it's starting to leak out. The Parkinson's doctor. Eventually there will be something that comes out. Will we fully know everything? Of course not. I mean, we haven't been able to get the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, out of too many politicians for a very long time. Thankfully, we are now starting, through technology and the ability to have venues or avenues like this, we are getting more exposure to the light to put these guys under the spectrum, not only on the Democrat side, but on the Republican side. Everybody needs to be held accountable to the people. Obviously, you and I, we are the governed. It's the consent of the governed, and I am the governed. So Joe by no means has access to the nuclear codes.
No, I don't believe it does either.
I mean, anybody that thinks that Joe could even get close to any of that is crazy. Once again, because they don't want to launch war against China,
no,
or Russia.
It's like it's a deterrent thing. Like you have one so that you don't have
it's a
to
one world government
Yeah.
that they aspire to the Great Reset.
Yep. It's
I mean,
mutually assured destruction. If one
yes.
country launches a nuke, the other one's going to respond and retaliate, and then you just keep going until there's nothing left. That's why you haven't seen them dropped since World War II.
Well, and
Good
it's
reason.
yes, so knowing the state of Joe Biden and the fact that he's not really, then what is this all about? It was reported, or I think I caught a Tucker interview where he was talking about in 2019, the Biden family, if you're out on the Northeast coast and you're living in the lifestyles of the rich and famous and you're living on the beaches, those people out there, it's kind of like being in and around the Chicagoland area. And this doesn't include everyone. So my friends who are tuning in from the Chicagoland area, I'm sorry, I didn't turn my comments on. I better see who's jumping in. When you get up near the Chicagoland area, it doesn't mean that people aren't conservative. I know they are, but they are surrounded by the cesspool.
Yep, the like-minded elite.
Yes. So whenever they become very like-minded. You're right, especially the higher they've risen in the food chain, they become more and more alike. The difference between a Chicago Democrat and a Chicago Republican, not very much. Well, so Tucker runs in circles, and Tucker was talking about a family member from the Biden family who was mentioning in 2019 they were all talking about Joe's mental condition and what was happening. And at that point, I do believe that was the onset, the early stage. What we're seeing is beyond. It's funny because people are saying, "Oh, he's losing it now." It's suddenly happened.
Just now losing it. Got it.
We know this has been going on, but the deeper questions to ask is, what did they know? When did they know it? And how long have they been conducting this masquerade, this charade?
Yeah.
We know the answers to that. We've been watching it. Like I mentioned earlier, the same people telling you that Biden is mentally fit tell us to inject something into our bodies that has not been fully tested. There was no safety data out on the vaccine.
Yep.
The same people who are telling us that Biden is mentally fit were willing to put this country in a downward spiral through open borders, through cutting off energy independence, through starting world wars, opening conflicts around the world. This is what there are many people who have been fighting against this for a long time. I'm just joining this fight over the last 7 years. Darren Bailey and I were talking this morning, and to think that Darren only served 4 years. He's only been involved in politics on a larger scale. Of course, he was on the school board for 17 years in Clay County. But on this level, Darren has only been involved in 7 years. And Darren will tell you, there go I, but for the grace of God, meaning if his wife and his faith weren't so much a part of who he is, he would have been checked out a long time ago. In fact, it's funny because he just had an opportunity to travel to some states that are very red, South Dakota, Wyoming. He even mentioned in conversation, and I hope I'm not sharing anything, but he's talked about this before. It's really difficult when you go to those states.
Yeah.
And you see the way that they live and the way they prosper, true prosperity, not this J.B. Pritzker, the land of make-believe prosperity, where you say that you're prospering because unemployment is up. JB, it's not. The numbers don't show that. In fact, JB,
there was
80,000 jobs.
Yeah. The Wire Points just came out with an article again describing how Illinois is a drag on the American economy as a whole because of the taxes and what they take in. They're the largest net taker from the federal government. They went from 45th to 47th on almost every state measure of the economy. So are we really prosperous?
No, we're not. We're not. The facts are we're not. And you know what? I I love it when, well, you're just jealous because things are going. Well, you know what? If JB's plans were truly working, we would see it, the results of it. The
Yeah, the
outcomes
Moneyball
would show
theory.
themselves.
Yeah,
That's
if
right.
it's
We would
working,
see,
if it's working, why isn't it working?
yeah, why isn't crime down in Chicago? We're going to get to the Brandon Johnson clip here in a second
Yep.
about the carnage. 100 people. JB had, of course, wanted to take advantage of a political talking point by bringing back up the entire episode that happened, the horrific crime up in Highland Park
Mhm.
last July 4th, where a young person uh, had a weapon that he discharged during a parade and killed 7 people. JB was quick to jump online, or
Mhm.
I should say, people surrounding JB. JB's not jumping anywhere, jumping
No,
on
except for the
anything.
buffet line.
Well, I see. I can't go there, but I'm glad you
I'll
did,
go there.
because I was telling Darren Bailey. A little side note. I was telling Darren this morning um, that you watch Darren Bailey and he's actively farming on his farm, 18,000 acres with his sons, and Darren's constantly in motion,
Yeah.
and I know JB is constantly in motion too. But isn't it funny that for a man the size of JB Pritzker, you never see any pictures of him, photo ops of him
Mhm.
eating?
Yeah.
How'd you get that
Really
big,
odd.
JB? I mean, you got to be eating something
You
sometime.
know he's not eating the lab meat that they're growing now. You know he's not eating that.
But you cannot get to be the size of a JB Pritzker and not at least get a photo op of him at a restaurant.
We're at the
I mean,
state
I know
fair
that
or
he,
something.
yeah, the guy's never eating. I mean, that's one thing I know that man does do well. He
Yes.
eats. It's
It's
very
figured out a
evident.
way to do that very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no, that's not body shaming JB. My
No, because
concern
that's
is,
the new beautiful thing now. You're supposed
yeah,
to prop that up as a beautiful thing.
yeah, no, I mean, it's very evident that JB is a very large person, and how you
Yeah.
become that large is you consume a lot of calories. And I don't believe that JB has a membership to Crunch Fitness or any other gym.
No.
Uh, and there's another thing. At least I'll give credit where credit's due. Joe Biden is actively riding a bicycle or falling off a bicycle.
It's
Joe
true.
Biden is,
He's
President
attempting.
Clinton. President Clinton was an avid runner.
Yeah.
George Bush was a runner. Uh, Donald Trump, his running is literally campaigning.
Yeah.
That's his
The man
fitness.
loves his McDonald's and his Diet Cokes for sure. But actually, if
Well,
you've seen him recently compared to the last few years of his presidency, he's actually lost weight. He's actually slimmed down a little bit.
well, as you get older, that happens too. I mean,
Yeah.
and he doesn't eat. He eats one meal a day. I was
Yeah.
party to that when I was out
Mhm.
in Sioux City, Iowa, for the convention out there, the rally out there last
Mhm.
summer. Actually, the year anniversary of that rally, when I went out to be part of Trump's motorcade and drive his senior staff around, just is coming upon us. So that was, yes, a memory that I'll forever have. Just
Yeah.
like the upcoming weekend, yours truly, will be heading up to Milwaukee Sunday afternoon, where I will be part of the RNC National Convention in Milwaukee. I don't know what to expect. Dan Bongino and his staff are going to be flying in from
Mhm.
Florida to set up shop. I am supposed to get press credentials because, you know, people still consider me somewhat media for what I
Yeah,
do.
I would.
Um,
I'd fight for it.
yeah. So it's there's a lot going on. But anyhow, I was saying that I was up at the there's my wife, Emperor's New Clothes. I don't know, the tent maker would be responsible for JB's new clothes. Um, but no, things that you don't see JB involved in. We
Yeah.
do see other leaders, other people that are actively involved in promoting wellness, health,
He's
life.
walking in parades. I've seen him pictures of walking in
There is
pride
that.
parades.
Well,
But not, I mean,
he has,
walking is a slow walk in parades. It's not really an active.
I do have a picture, and I wish I could go into the archives and dig it out. But it was funny during the state fair, the year of the election,
Yeah.
August of 2022. JB was towards the front of the parade. The Bailey contingency was towards the middle. There was a rain cloud that hovered over JB the entire time he walked and poured on him. It was the worst representation of a wet t-shirt contest you wanted to see. Was JB sopping wet. I have the picture, and it was sent, of course our campaign had to use it. I mean, what else could you do?
Absolutely. Yeah. How can you not?
But JB, you were followed by a rain cloud. The rest of us were dry.
Yeah.
What was this rain cloud that was following you? But the entire shtick about what's being perpetrated against you and I here in Illinois, not only in Illinois, but around the country, because there are other governors and candidates who they're considering to be someone who could step in and take the reins or the throttle of the presidency of the United States, which I think, once again, is laughable. Yeah. The only person that'll ever replace Joe Biden is who Barack Obama decides will replace Joe Biden. Yeah. Or in this case, they got themselves in a little kerfuffle.
Covfefe.
That's right, covfefe. They have a Joe Biden to deal with. And I'm sorry, what I've seen so far from Jill after the debate, this isn't Hillary Clinton. I'm going to stand by my man.
Yeah, no.
This is literally
worse.
I'm not giving up the White House.
You have a polar opposites. Yeah,
that's right. I don't care what you say.
Yeah, you've got Michelle Obama, who absolutely hates politics. Somebody that, her husband was in politics all of his life, and he got into it. He was in the White House for 8 years. Michelle despises it. And this is coming from people inside that White House, that she absolutely hates it, doesn't want to be a part of it. You've got somebody on the Biden marriage that absolutely wants all the power in the world. And part of it's Joe, like he's not backing out, but I think a majority of it is Jill. She craves the attention. She craves the power. So if anybody's making decisions beyond Obama, it's his wife, and she's just as much to blame as anybody. If my spouse were at that point where she clearly for 10, 20 years was losing her faculties, I wouldn't want her in nowhere near public eye. But that's just me.
No. And I think most of us,
I would hope that she would do the same thing for me too. Probably not. She'd probably get more videos and pictures of me as well too.
Well, here is this. Once again, this is on End Wokeness of Twitter. You can go out and look at it for yourself. This is Brandon Johnson, and he's talking about what transpired over the holiday weekend. Now, for those of you that are joining us on the show, I also always like to highlight what is amazing about the state of Illinois, because believe me, there's a lot more good in Illinois, even in the midst of a J.B. Pritzker for 2 terms. Mm-hmm. There is so much good happening in Illinois. Downtown Chicago hosted the second NASCAR race. There was weather that moved in, but yet they're prepared. They have both rain tires and slick tires because it's a street race. So they're gonna run laps. But what a great event to take place in the beautiful city of Chicago. And I still think it's a beautiful city. Unfortunately, the Warriors have taken over. Some of you will get that joke. There was a movie, The Warriors Come Out and Play. It was in New York City. The gangs all came together to try to compromise, figure out who was going to control the city. It's kind of like Snake Plissken with Escape from New York. But this is Chicago.
This fits well with your
Chicago has amazing things. I happened to be up in Crystal Lake over the weekend. There are so many beautiful things about the state of Illinois. And Illinois is going to be great again. Believe me. I'm not giving up the fight. I know Darren Bailey isn't. Darren and I were talking, as I said earlier, and he spent many hours in the inner city of Chicago, on the west side. I mean, where the crime districts are, probably where most of these shootings were taking place. And what most people don't realize, the totality of what happened in Chicago is really in an area, a sector that's about a mile by a mile. It's
Right.
not a very large area. The Chicago PD will tell you that most of the criminals live in a certain area of the town. Once again,
Mhm.
why? Because that's where the commerce of everything they deal in is happening.
Yeah.
Prostitution, human trafficking, drug
Yep.
abuse, gambling, you name it. This is the modern organized crime of
Yeah.
the day.
The red
That's
light
all
district
you're
type
seeing.
thing. Yeah. Mhm.
So here is Brandon Johnson talking about the carnage that took place. I knew that my friend from Bob from Berwyn would be on. Hey, DPB and Ryan, there they is. There they is. There they are. There he is. I can get that out, Bob. There he is, Bob from Berwyn, Bob Kelsey. But let's play Brandon and just I see how that I knocked him off the stage. Don't
Mhm.
worry. When
Yeah.
when at
See,
first you don't
blame is
succeed,
for his problems.
you know, the fingers do amazing things.
We need to hire
And
Tanya.
well, Tanya was talking about the fact that I didn't have her in studio with me today. We were hoping that she would be, but we're trying to get some things done. And as you can tell, I'm trying to buy a little time as I pull this video back up because literally it doesn't take much for me to hit the buttons.
Well,
And
it fits into your theme of your show, so let's tie it back. So as Brandon Johnson's the mayor of Chicago, he was almost worse than Lightfoot at this point, Larry
thank you.
Lightfoot.
Larry,
And the
Larry Lightfoot,
delusion,
Lori Lightfoot.
the delusion of what the media and what the Democrat Party has told us about the state of Illinois and Biden's fitness. They tell you not to believe your eyes. The Orwellian quote, right? The party is going to tell you don't believe everything you hear and see. And we have a Chicago mayor who is telling you the crime in Chicago all these years and decades, the root causes are not the problem of the city, whoever's in charge. It was a problem 60 some odd 80 years ago. And that's the delusion we're living in. You're being told, don't believe what you see and hear. Listen to us. We know we're right. And he's blaming on the crime and the lawlessness and the issues in Chicago on somebody who barely spent any time in office.
Here
This
he
is what they
goes.
do. They project. Here it is.
Here it is.
So we cut off the pipeline of boys between the ages of 10 and 19 being either victims or the perpetrators. So, yeah, it is personal.
Is he crying?
Black death has been
Black death.
unfortunately accepted in this
What
country
is
for
Black
a very long
Death?
time.
How about just death?
We had a
No,
chance 60
no.
years ago to get at the
Yeah.
root causes.
What is black
What about
death?
white
People
death?
mocked
That's
President
racist.
Johnson.
Now I feel offended.
President
What did our
L.B.
church say?
Johnson. No, yeah.
I'm going to work hard every day to transform this city. That's what it takes to build a better, stronger, safer Chicago. And I need everybody to step up. So we cut off the pipeline of boys.
So
between
he's
the ages
working
of
hard
10
to
and 19
transform it
being either victims
from something that Nixon helped fail, but Nixon didn't run Chicago. So I'm not really missing. I'm
Well-
missing his correlation. But he's going to transform it
And what?
from what? What are Democrats have been in charge of Chicago since when? 40 years? 50
As far as I
years?
know, there hasn't been
60?
there has not been a Republican mayor, and you'll have to fact check me on this. There has
Mhm.
not been a Republican mayor in Chicago since I think 1942.
Okay, so now we're coming up on roughly
So it's at
little
least 80
under
years.
80.
Somebody out there in the chat, please
Roughly
Google that.
So
Google
Joe
that.
Biden's
Google that.
entire life.
Yeah,
They've
Joe
been
Biden's
in
entire life. So there has not been a Republican in the highest office of the city of Chicago for 80 plus years.
And then you have the administrative, mess that they've created as they've been in charge. So who's been running that city
Well,
that long?
I want to pull up, and I don't have it, and I wish I would, because you look at every high level office held in the Chicagoland area. the city, of the inner city especially,
Mhm.
every office is held by a black person for the most part. I mean, I don't think there are very many white people who have offices. And that isn't something that just recently happened. That's been
No,
happening for a few
that's
years. There
yeah,
were
that's been
there
a
were
DEA program.
Anglo white European people who
Yeah.
held offices in
Yep.
Chicago. But unfortunately, and Bob, you probably can speak into this, Kelsey, it's predominantly run by black people. And yet Brandon Johnson said he's going to do everything in his power. Well, Brandon, first and foremost, how you start cleaning up the city is taking advantage of programs like President Trump offered Lori Lightfoot, Mayor
Mhm.
Lightfoot, in the National Guard. What you
Mhm.
need to do is you need to root out the crime. You know,
Yeah.
if we had, well, that's not true, not under a Biden regime. I was going to say we would send forces, special forces, into
Yeah.
areas
Yeah.
to clean up crime districts. I mean, think about this, Ryan. How many times do we hear in the heat of war that 100 people have been shot, 11 people were killed? I mean, numbers like that, I I know that probably existed back in the day of Vietnam. I think we lost, unfortunately, we lost our servicemen at
Mhm.
a rate that was horrific.
Yeah.
But
But
here
this
in
is like
Chicago,
an everyday or every weekend thing.
and it's good. Well, it is an everyday thing. We only report the weekend crime.
Right. Yeah.
We never hear about the crime during the week because, you know what, the criminals they go to their
Yeah.
jobs during the
They
week.
take the week off. Yeah. They're off during the week. That's what was that a Merrick Garland line? Like we saw him during the day. It was at night. We couldn't catch him because it was at night.
It was
But
at night. We
we'll
don't know when
investigate during the day. It's fine.
yeah, it's crazy. And let me, I guess, just bringing it back, tying it together with the theme of the show. The reason I played the Brandon Johnson
The excuses.
video is it's not that, yeah, they tell us one thing and they accuse us of doing things that they're doing, and they've been doing it now right in open air,
Mhm.
in the light. They're not even pretending anymore. They do it right in front of us. And what are we going to truly do about it? And that's what I hope to bring to the show here
Mhm.
is some solutions. What are the solutions? Well, it's pretty simple. We need more people. We're not going to get through this without more people actively being a part of the solution, meaning boots on the ground. We need soldiers. We need fighters. You know, I started telling you that Darren wasn't giving up the fight. Darren Bailey, I'm not giving up the fight. But what I quoted to Darren was this is, you know, Jesus could have given up the fight real easy. In fact, he pleaded with God to take
Mhm.
the cup from his hand.
Mhm.
You know, how much of this can you endure? Is it better to live a life where you don't have to be confronted with the challenges we face day in and day out, the suffering? But we know that that's part of what we're going to have to go through. We're
Mhm.
not promised a comfortable cross.
Yeah.
When Christ told us to pick up the cross and follow him, he didn't give us a balsam wood cross, one that was really light, one that could be just tossed in and out, put back on. No, we
Mhm.
all will be persecuted. Scripture tells us that. It's a matter of whether we're going to embrace, as Joe Madden used to say about the Chicago Cubs, embrace the suck,
Mhm.
because it does suck.
Yeah.
Believe
The
me.
suckage is real.
And it is, but it doesn't mean we give up. We are making we are making pr we are making great strides. I almost used the P word, but I never wanna use the P word because I don't believe in progression or progress.
Yeah.
I believe in strides. I believe in accomplishment and outcomes. Progress is a word that, is unfortunately has been given so many, uh different meanings now that
They're
it's hard to.
progressing backwards is what they're really doing.
Well, we definitely are. There are moments where we are taking steps back. I've mentioned this about, unfortunately, here in the Republican Party in the state of Illinois, it is a clown card in reverse. I
Mhm.
mean, but it's not just the Illinois Republicans; it's national Democrats. They're in a clown car going in
Yeah.
reverse.
Yep.
And interesting thing is those two probably are going to collide.
Yeah.
If one left from Illinois going 50 miles per hour and the clown car going in reverse left from DC going west, and this is one of those story problems, Ryan, and you can figure it out. They will collide.
Yeah, eventually.
And that's where we're there to pick up the pieces. We know that this has been going on in Illinois for many years. Believe me, Governor Thompson did not help in creating a better state of Illinois.
Mhm.
Rod Blagojevich, unfortunately, he had some great ideas, and look what happened to him.
Yep, he got
I
caught
mean,
up
that
in
goes
that
oh, that
politics.
yeah. Well,
Mhm.
and once again, did he really? Because what was Rod Blagojevich doing that Bill Clinton and every other politician
Yep.
hasn't done,
Mhm.
other than he made somebody really mad?
Mhm.
He was too close to the fire. It involved President Obama. It involved
Yep. You
JB
ruffle the
Pritzker.
right feathers, you're gonna eat the pavement.
JB Pritzker is on a recorded FBI line. Isn't it amazing how many things just get buried
Mhm.
and they never see the light of day? But JB Pritzker was on a recorded line with Rod Blagojevich talking about the Senate seat. But yet that's never brought up
No. Why would
because
it?
it
Doesn't
doesn't.
doesn't fit their narrative.
That's
It's
right.
not advantageous to them whatsoever.
Well, as I shared with you at the beginning, we could talk about the same people who are telling you that Biden is mentally fit are the people who are telling you that Illinois is a prosperous state, that the country is doing so well, that the economy is doing well, and we know that this is the emperor wears no clothes, as my
Yep.
beautiful bride says. She is so spot on. There she is, the emperor's new clothes. Bob Kelsey's chimed in and said that we, the people, have to just keep taking the fight to the everyday, ordinary residents of Cook County, Illinois,
Mhm.
that their vote indeed counts. And you're right, that's a big population base, and I think we are winning hearts and minds in the city of
Yep.
Chicago. Obviously, Brandon Johnson, you're not going to win very many people over. Now, granted, he also controls everything about the city, as I shared with you. It's organized corruption
Yep.
up there, and it encompasses the very people who are perpetrating the crimes are also steeped in the governing of the city. So it's very evident that all of this is getting uh, brought forth to you and me in such a manner that we've never seen this before. I mean, this is okay. Chris, thank you. Chris came up with the answer. It was 1931. I was 11 years off,
Yeah.
and thank you,
William
Chris.
Hale Thompson.
William Hale Thompson. Thank you, Chris.
Well, you brought up prosperous. The same people who bring up Illinois, the fact that it's prosperous, and the JB and the Democrats, we've never been stronger as an economy. We always bring receipts, right? We've got videos, we've got numbers. Here's some numbers to parlay with our message today. You ready for this?
Put it up there. I'll grab it.
All right. Let me.
So when Ryan shares the numbers, obviously, I'm assuming this is the wire points, right, Ryan?
Yeah, in the middle of the article here. You can find us on Wire Points. This is the
Okay.
thing we talked about earlier. When
Okay.
they say Illinois is prosperous, clearly it's the opposite. They are continuing to hemorrhage at the federal level as a result of Illinois. One of the biggest reasons. So when we talk about the numbers and deflecting the commentary, real GDP from since the quarter of 2019, United States grew at a 8.6% post-COVID. But the Illinois economy only grew 2.8%. So a far cry from the United States, and it's 46th among the states. Now, non-farm payroll, both the U.S. and Illinois both lost jobs during the first few months of the pandemic, but since then, U.S. payrolls grew by 4.1%, and Illinois didn't even touch the pre-COVID levels of 0.2. And the unemployment rate through 2020 through 2024, since the height of the pandemic, the unemployment rate was about 5.1 federally, and Illinois was about 6. And now it's about 0.8 to 0.9% above US average for the last decade. And currently, 4.9% is the state unemployment rate, and it's 0.9% higher than US average. Personal income, you and I have experienced some friends that obviously have seen their wages go down, and some of them have left the state entirely because of the impact of the wages. But Illinois is one of the slowest growing states regarding total income since COVID-19. The fourth quarter of 2019 grew by 22%, which it's a far cry from the 27% of the US increase. So numbers bear them out for themselves. You can go do the math. You can find out and point to, okay, JB, is he really telling the truth? Is Illinois really prosperous, or is he lying?
Wait a second. 25 hours ago, JB said that the outlook on our fiscal health looks so much. I gotta expand I gotta go to the screen so I can read it. The outlook on our fiscal health looks much different than it did 5 years ago. Illinois, from $17 billion in unpaid bills and credit rating one a notch above junk status, we now pay our bills on time, balanced budgets, which once again, balanced budget means that you're spending every dollar that you allocate. So it doesn't matter if you've raised your budget from one year to the next by 20 billion. It just means you spent 20 more billion dollars. Contribute pensions and have over 2 billion in a rainy day fund. Contrast that with like the state of Indiana with half as many people. They have over $20 billion in a rainy day
they're just
fund.
now putting money in their rainy day fund. But it's interesting that he said that. Just 5 years ago, we just read some of the numbers from 5 years ago. They're significantly behind in every metric economically the rest of the nation. So are they really prosperous, or is it just a facade to say, yeah, I'm doing my job?
Yeah. And once again, Chris Chapman, thank you for pulling that data up. I knew I was close. That's why I asked you guys, fact check me on this. So the last time a Republican governor, so the last time that the Republicans had any influence in the Chicagoland area was prior to World War II, just after World War I. Bob Kelsey, I agree with you. I truly believe there are a lot of good people willing to get involved if they honestly thought it actually would make a difference.
Yeah.
Which gets back to your point, Ryan, because we know what JB's saying. This is what people are hearing.
Yep.
There are plenty of people that are going to believe JB. It's up to us to go out and educate people. I get it. It's a band of warriors. I heard this last night, Ryan. If you would have stuck around for the board meeting, you would have heard it. We have division chairs in our own county, McLean County, Illinois. The Republican Party here in McLean County, and they're doing the yeoman's work of an entire district, and multiple precincts. There's roughly 10,500 precincts, and oh, by the way, I'm going to bring the goods. I've got the data. It was sent to me earlier today. I didn't have time to jump on and get it, but I have it from my friend Andy Parcher. I want to get Annie on my show. Annie has been instrumental in doing amazing things here in the state of Illinois. And she, like you, Ryan, and myself, Darren Bailey, we came out hair on fire because we knew something was wrong. And we knew we had to get involved. She got involved, started an organization called the Illinois Freedom Alliance.
Okay.
She now is the county chair in Rock Island County, a Democrat stronghold. This is where JB Pritzker funnels a lot of money. And when I say funnels a lot of money, go to IllinoisSunshine.org. That's IllinoisSunshine.org. And just look where Mr. JB Pritzker sends his money. Rock Island County Democrats receive a good amount of money. JB has put in more than $300 million of his own money to finance and prop up candidates and races throughout the state of Illinois. The Republican Party hasn't even scratch that, maybe 100 million total. So we've put a third of
Didn't
the
they
money.
just pass a
And
law too
granted,
that's unlimited money can be funneled?
now it's unlimited. Cat Peterson just did an article. It was picked
Yeah.
up by John Solomon of Just the News. He ran with that. There are no caps. We'll get Kat to talk about that. Hopefully she's able to join us. And what a great segue. Ryan, look at that. You took it right from me, and I'm gonna jump out and grab that real quick. So we can look at liberal cities suck according to Kat Peterson, which they do, Kat. There's no doubt about it. And there she is. The cat is back.
Look at that.
Conservative cat. Conservative Cat is back. She's live now on Monday through Friday. Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Yes, that's right. You haven't heard me say that often. And I can now say it on the DPB show. I said it for 3 years. I was proud to say it. And now I'm even prouder to say it again because Cat is back. Conservative Cat is on the airways. You can catch her from 6 in the morning till 8 in the morning. So right after Cat is Glenn Beck. Go out, listen to the Cat. Let's hear a little bit of what the Cat has to say this morning on her show. Here it goes.
40 times.
What happened, Cat? You stopped playing.
Since moving into their home in 2018. I'm going to tell you why that is here coming up in just a little bit. An Illinois Senate bill. I want to dig into this. This is 1779, Senate Bill 1779. What it does, it creates a certified medication aid program. So if you go to the doctor, you might see a nurse, you might see a nurse practitioner, you might see a CNA. Now you're going to see a CMA. These are certified Medicaid aids. Through the program, individuals will be able to administer medications under the supervision of a registered nurse. Okay, so an RN. So the bill has been sent to the governor. He's expected to sign it. And I want to talk about this bill because I've gone to the doctor, recently for a couple of checkups, and I found it peculiar. And I haven't gone to in years. 25 years old, and in best shape. And I really
You're so old.
So I haven't gone in quite some time.
So quite some time.
I was going for a couple of checkups, and I just noticed a bunch of young kids, and I never actually saw the doctor. When I used to go, the nurse would come in, she'd check your vitals, then you wait a little while, and then the doctor comes in, and right away, he's a doctor, right? He comes in, you're like, okay, this guy's a doctor. No.
Okay, Cat. I am so glad that she is back on the air. Go and catch the Cat Peterson, Conservative Cat, in the morning, Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal and beyond, because you can stream Cat. She's streamable.
And if you hear closely, you can hear the local liberals that were complaining before on the city's site. Their heads are exploding that she's back. You can hear closely. You can hear them scream.
They just in time for the October surprise, which could happen in July.
Yeah.
But she makes a good point. So this is really cool because I was listening to our press secretary, the infamous Jean-Claude Van Damme Pierre, before I came into studio today. And she was being interviewed by Peter Ducey, and Peter was putting her on the spit about Joe Biden, and
they all have been. Yeah, the entire room.
Everybody's they're rabid, right? They want to get to the bottom of this. They believe they've been misled.
50 million people watch the debate, and suddenly it's no longer a cheap fake. So now you're going to have to get to man. But we can talk about
last week. She was just saying it was a cheap fake. I mean, it's like Ricky Ricardo said to Lucy, you got a lot of explaining to do.
Yeah. And they're not righteous by all means asking the questions they are. They're doing it for their own wicked agenda too. But nonetheless, they are probing her about what's going on.
Well, so in this interview, she was talking about how the president actually has a medical staff in the White House. And I shared with you that what was really cool about being in the motorcade for Trump. One of the SUVs is an ambulance. And I'm assuming that's the case when it comes to any of the people at that high of a level, whether it's President Trump or whether it's Joe Biden.
Suite.
That's right. They've got to be prepared. They're not going to risk having to, get President Reagan in his motorcade in his car. They sure weren't going to, John Kennedy. I mean, obviously, that we'll just leave that one there for another time. But they've gone through the precautions. There's a part of the White House where there is what you and I don't have. Kat Peterson said just recently, not everybody goes to the doctor. Joe Biden is constantly seen by physicians, whether it's a visiting physician who specializes in Parkinson's disease, or whether it's his ongoing medical staff that's actually right there every day monitoring the situation, because he is the president of the United States. And the point being, and I'm glad Kat kind of hit at this, is we know that unequivocally that there is knowledge about this, what Joe Biden's condition is. If you have been explored and examined as much as Joe Biden has, and he's not 25 years of age like Kat Peterson, he's 81 years of age. And he has constantly been monitored since he took the presidency. They know the state of being that Joe Biden is in, physically, mentally, and even spiritually. Isn't it fascinating that we don't hear much about his spiritual side? He talks, well, first and foremost, I don't think he's in a position to truly to let us know what he's thinking spiritually, because I don't think he knows what he is thinking spiritually.
To me, I don't know much about the Catholic faith, but being pro-abortion is not one of their stances. Going on.
The
Vatican has their own issues going woke, but aside from tradition, that's not one of their things.
No.
Neither is the
Pope Francis has not come out and said that he has got open season on the womb. So we should just start whacking babies like we're doing right now. Catholic Church does not stand behind the killing of innocent life in any manner, any form, innocent life, nor even the Catholic Church takes a very firm position on capital punishment too. They don't believe in just killing people with the death penalty. So, yes, I was getting caught back into Brandon Johnson saying that he was going to get to the bottom of this, and it was black.
That's the only message, right? Their root causes. That's all they're about, but they never actually provide a solution to the root causes. Kamala Harris, we're trying to find the root causes of the border crisis. She's still not been able to solve that. And Brandon Johnson, what are the root causes of Black Death? Is that a plague? Like, are we having the plague come back now and hit in Chicago only? What are the root causes? It's the soft on crime policies by Democrats in large cities. That's the root cause. If you start arresting people for committing crimes, you'll have less death. Don't get dead. You'll have that policy if you start hammering the people that commit those murderous crimes. I'm just saying.
So here's the level it's gone to, folks. And this is why it's so critical, because we're past. I mean, once again, I'm proud to be an American. I'm not proud of what our country is doing and where we've gone. It's going to take us, you and me, as proud Americans, to work. I mean, we're going to have to work like we've never worked before. We're going to have to fight like we've never fought before. Speaking of that, I wanted to get this out before I add this. This is something my friend is passing out on the streets.
I like it.
Ken Heil. It's on the front of it. It's got Joe Biden with his blue gloves with the donkey on it, and Trump with his red gloves and the elephant. Presidential Showdown 2024, $1 million. Department of Eternal Affairs. It says on it, "Let the freedom ring." On the back of it, really cool. I've got a few of these. I'm going to take them with me to the RNC convention next week. I'm hopeful to get maybe Dan Bongino to sign one of them. I'm hopeful that maybe even the president of the United States would sign one of these. I want to get one for my friend Ken. And the reason I want to get one for Ken is Ken does amazing work here in Bloomington Normal and beyond with the homeless population. He also is a street preacher. He's gone around the world. He has been to the biggest events, the Super Bowls, the Kentucky Derby, the World Series. He's a street preacher. And all his mission is to bring souls to heaven, right? To an eternal perspective. But on the back of it said the $1 million question. In God we trust, the election showdown. The $1 million question: will you go to heaven when you die? Have you lied, stolen, used God's name in vain, or lusted, which Jesus said is adultery, Matthew 5:28? If so, God sees you as a liar, thief, blasphemer, and adulterer at heart. If you die in your sins, you will end up in a terrible place called HE double hockey sticks. But there's good news. Though we broke God's law, Jesus paid the fine by dying on the cross. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. And whoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Then Jesus rose. That was John 3:16. Then Jesus rose from the dead and was seen by hundreds of eyewitnesses. He fulfilled all the prophecies of the promised Savior. Please, today, repent and trust Jesus, and God will forgive you and grant you the gift of eternal life. Ephesians 2:8-9. Then, to show your gratitude, read the Bible daily and obey it. Join the Christian church and be baptized. Visit, and I'm going to do a little plug here, needgod.com and livingwaters.com. Needgod.com and livingwaters.com.
I like
That is such a cool little track. You know, when I was younger in my faith, I kind of really was put off by the tracks, but this has got to be one of the coolest tracks I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
You've got Biden and Trump facing off, but ultimately the real meaning of life is on the back of the $1 million bill right here, and it's the track. Hey, one last thing I want to get to before we jump off there. I'm going to add this to stage. Every now and then I hold these tabs up above on my show, and for whatever reason, I don't delete them. And this one really kind of sticks out because it really is woven into the theme of this show. The same people telling you that Biden is mentally fit tell us Illinois is a prosperous state. This was an article that was published. Once again, let's go up there and I'm going to read it for you. June 25th, it was a press release from the House of Representatives. This is Washington, D.C. It is one of the only levels of government at the federal level that the Republicans still have a foothold in. All the rest of them are gone, right? Whether it's other than the Supreme Court, I forgot. We have the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
To some degree. That's for Thursday's show. We're going to talk a little bit about the pressure these people are under by those who are controlling the proverbial strings, who are pulling the strings. But this was released on June 25th. New information shows CIA contractors colluded with the Biden campaign to discredit Hunter Biden laptop story. The agencies of the CIA, we kind of alluded to it a little bit ago, Ryan. Nixon, Blagojevich were painted as terrible human beings who committed crimes.
Yep.
What were their crimes?
Exposing what was happening inside the government. Did Nixon actually steal anything? Or was he actually just exposing what the CIA was doing behind closed doors? Did Blagojevich actually commit a crime? Or did he get JB and others on FBI tapes exposing their corruption? Who were the actual criminals in those two instances?
Well, and like I said, this is all documented. I mean, we know this to be true. Unfortunately, we allow the media to brainwash us to create what they believe we should believe. So they create it, and then we buy into it rather than question it.
Yep.
these were two men. I mean, obviously under Nixon, you have a guy named Woodard, Bob Woodard, the infamous Bob Woodard, who opened this thing up. Little does anybody know about this man's life. He was in the intelligence of the United States Navy, the CIA. Who did they replace Nixon with? Ford. Who was he sympathetic to? The CIA.
Yep.
My wife, obviously, this is big stuff because, once again, as many of you know, very few people have had the FBI knocking on their door. Very few people would like to have the FBI knocking on their door. I've had that happen to me shortly after January 6th, 2021.
Yeah, the timing, normally there's an actual cause in which you get the FBI at your door for some federal serious crime, right? You normally wouldn't expect to have a knock on your door for just going to a rally.
Yep.
Yeah.
But my point being is, this was the House of Representatives, the Judiciary Committee. They've uncovered this collusion with the CIA.
And where's the media?
That's right.
Where's the journalist?
Where is any of the reports? This has been going on now since June 25th. We're well into the month of July.
Yep.
I get it. The debate, all this other stuff captivates us, but it's truly window dressing.
Yeah. Yeah.
To the real issue.
Yeah. What's shiny at the moment?
What is underneath all of this? What is underneath Joe Biden and this entire presidency of his? I have a firm belief in what is transpiring. Do I believe Joe Biden will be out? I believe they've lost the election. Now, desperation sets in.
Yep.
They can't figure out how to fill enough ballots in drop boxes. They can't figure out how to shut the government down quick enough. I'm fearful, and this is why I challenge you to be on guard. Everyone that can hear my voice, hear Ryan's voice, who will view this, be on guard. Watch out. These people are desperate. Desperate people do desperate things. JB is a desperate man who wants to maintain power, whether it's at the federal level or the state level. He will not stop. They can't. It's like a drug to them.
Yeah.
And they get such great euphoria being in the positions they're in, whether they're truly crushing other people's lives. And, the body bags that have been left, the deaths that have incurred since January 6th, really, but since the COVID crisis in particular, worldwide, still hasn't been fully vetted, fully understood, fully brought out into the light. This issue with the CIA and Hunter Biden, the fact that this isn't the top news, that federal agencies conspire, which we already kind of knew going through Spygate.
Yeah.
Why that they have such a grievance, a hate for a man who, as far as I know, wants to make America great again. Hey, we're going to be back on Thursday. Ryan's going to be here, as far as I know, right? Ryan?
Yep, absolutely.
We're going to continue to knock it out. The cool thing is, we won't have a lot of information about what's going on in the state of Illinois with the selection process of a state chair. Applications are due. Just a real quick thing. I mean, I'm hearing amazing things. You got Kathy Salvi, former candidate for United States Senate. I think she's going to apply. You've got Jason Plummer in there. There are other candidates. Aaron Del Mar has put his name in. I don't know if he's going to stay in it. But there are many candidates who are bringing themselves forward. Bottom line is, if you're putting your name in the hat for the state chair position of Illinois, you better knock it out of the park. Because if you don't, your political career is over.
I heard, I don't know if it's correct, but Mark Shaw put in a candidate. He's backing a candidate. I don't know.
Yeah, the gentleman.
I heard that.
I won't even mention his name because it was one of Richard Irvin's supporter, which means,
of course it was.
Mark, if you're bringing up a candidate, it's just sad. And I really like Mark Shaw as a guy that you could go and have a beer with.
Sure.
But he's just made so many mistakes. And I believe he's a very good attorney, and he should know
Mhm.
better. And unfortunately, he's kind of his own worst enemy. So, but anyhow, for you, we're going to be back Thursday.
Yep.
As I always say, I love you very much. Thank you for coming on, listening, watching. Continue to give us heads up of what you want to hear about, what we can help you understand better, what you can help us understand better, because we don't have all the answers to everything.
Yep.
We need you out there. We need these conversations, but I love you. I know Jesus loves you more. And until Thursday, I bid you farewell. I will make sure I turn off the stream.